And welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Diamond Anvil. Talking here with Mr. Moriello, aka Diamond. He's the diamond component of the Diamond Anvil, Too Hard to Smash, and I'm the smash component. And he's coming at you on the banana phone here. I believe he was doing some stuff to employ sheep's bladders to prevent earthquakes earlier. Can you comment on this?
Yes, indeed.
Is it possible that the Earth is also banana-shaped, a fractal of that fruit, making it even more nutritious?
I actually, in an update a year ago, found a GIF that's banana Earth. You can actually go look, just Google it and hit image, and you'll find a banana Earth. You can also find pizza Earth and many other types of Earth.
Ah, yes, the pizza Earth. You got to have the pizza Earth. So what's going on at the ranch, man? I just got home from work. I was kind of hectic. It's not fun being essential personnel, let me tell you.
We are planting hysterically and watering because we're in the desert. It got up to 80 yesterday. Wow, there's really terrific feedback. And my dry suit is ripped, so I need to patch that before a huge big water excursion tomorrow.
Oh, okay. And yeah, so one of the things I was watching recently in one of your videos, I forget which one it would be, but you talked about growing certain plants side by side because of nutritive effects of the, on the microbiome and on the soil and stuff. Can you give us a quick rundown of that? Because I can't remember which video it was. It was around when you did the David Dubine one, I think.
Yeah, it was just the end of an update, and I shared an article which you can find. I don't remember the title of the article. It's like 32 crops you want to grow together. And there's different reasons for these pairings. Some of them are set up for symbiotic relationships where the understory plant is bringing in a particular type of predator insect which the vegetable needs. And that prevents you from using insecticides and pesticides. So a lot of these are relationships with drawing in insects. Others, if you use legumes in your pairing, you would then be fertilizing the fruit crop or the vegetable crop. There's subsurface symbiotic relationships, and then there's aerial relationships, which is beneficial insect biomes, and then in the subsurface it would be for fertilizing.
You think that was the right search there? Symbiotic plant pairing? That should give people about what they want to find, right? Symbiotic plant pairing?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there's 1,000 blogs on it.
Companion planting guide on the almanac and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's where the old lady farmers you go to the companion planting guide, and it explains the reason you're companion planting.
I see. So let me ask you this one. I've got some... Oh, go on.
Okay.
No, you go. You're the expert.
No, I was just going to say, everyone should start growing borage or borage. This is an amazing plant that should be in the corner or regularly throughout your permaculture or your garden.
Ah.
It's a heavy mulch. If you have chickens, they can eat it. It's very big and bulky. It's also beautiful. It has huge purple flowers that attract all types of beneficial birds like hummingbirds and moths and other types of unique pollinators. That's just, it used to be mandatory in English gardens, and people just forgot about what it was.
BORA.
Almost no one knows about AGE, yeah.
Nice.
George.
Cool. All right, thanks for that. Hey, did you see, I don't know if you watch Joe Rogan or not, did you see Tom Green was on there? It's like a 200-minute one. It's pretty good. Tom Green is a hell of an interesting guy,
Tom Green.
Tom Green
show.
Yeah. That shit was crazy, right? So it turns out, according to Joe Rogan, podcasting largely, like Tom Green is part of the history of podcasting because that guy trashed his house making the whole place into a studio, and Joe Rogan said that. Joe Rogan said he probably wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't for Tom Green. So I have another question here.
So he gave bad props.
Yeah, big props, man, big props. And he was talking about how he would like to return to doing the what do you call it, those public, what do you call it, when you get on when they just have slots open and anybody can just show up and do anything, what do they call it, public access programming. He says he would love to go
public access TV, PACTV.
Imagine how that scene would blow up if Tom Green started doing it. It would be absolutely insane. Tony Hawk would show up and things. It would be nuts. In a good way. Anyway,
I would get a couple of views.
Yeah, I like Tom Green a lot, but I was surprised that he went so far. I mean, that Joe Rogan went so far as to say that Tom Green was largely his inspiration. I mean, of course, Anthony Cumia also, I guess, is one of the kind of the fathers of podcasting, and he was kind of doing the same thing, way ahead of the curve. Of course, I just have a sheet hanging up behind me right here. This room is an absolute disaster. I don't even show our patrons what this room looks like. It's interesting. So what else is going on? So yeah, I noticed that that Rational Wiki article that you sent, the Robitaille article, and that thing hadn't been updated for maybe 18 months, I'd say, something like that. I read that a long time ago. It's
or longer. So most of the people trashed Robitaille a long time ago, 14 years ago. Actually, they started trashing him around 2001 when he published spent $100,000 to publish that ad in the New York Times.
It was more like 300, I thought, but in any case, yeah, they spent quite a lot of money. And for some reason, I thought that happened in like 2011, but that was what, 2003, I think, right?
Yeah, long time ago.
Yeah, and I didn't hear anything about it until maybe, I want to say 2014. So it took about 11 years for me to hear anything about it. But I wasn't constantly reading astronomy articles and deciding which ones are articles.
And Robitaille started to publish with Anthony Carruthers at that time. So he was getting more air in the scientific realm. So that's why they rehashed that information to discredit him. That's what they do to all scientists that have completely new ideas. They discredit them.
Yeah, and he has so many papers published, man, that I've never seen anything like it. Going through the list of papers that he has published, it is ridiculous. That 40 proofs, for instance, he cites a lot of papers too, and that 40 proofs for a liquid metallic hydrogen model of the sun, that's got, I think, 300 and some references in it. And they're all, it's some pretty serious stuff. You start going down that rabbit hole and understanding the implications of that on cosmology, and it's like, oh. And I've personally heard Robitaille on stage saying that he doesn't want astronomers fired. The data that they're getting is legit data. He's not saying people are idiots. He understands that sometimes you get a bad thing piled on top of another bad piece of data, piled on a misinterpreted piece of data. It's not like anybody's evil. Everybody should be able to shift gears like a BMC team machine and, just be able to move on and not...
It's similar to the LIGO receiver. When they looked at the gravity waves, the big discovery, they found them, and then they went to check the equipment, and it was a wasp's nest, I think, in one of the receivers or something that was making the signal.
Yes, and I mean, look, anytime in science when you're measuring something that's very, very, very hard to measure, you get to the point where you go, are we really measuring what we think we're measuring here? It happens in any possible thing. If you're trying to look at the smallest things, the most distant things, the dimmest things, the brightest things, it's people aren't screwing this stuff up on purpose. It's like the nuclear
title of an article today is a very rare exotic type of dark matter found. Which is hilarious because they've never found any dark matter. But there's now a new rare kind that they just found.
Oh, a rare kind, huh? Like It's like
Yeah.
like so rare that it exists. It's so rare that it
Maybe.
exists. Oh, hey, I wanted to tell you something before I
Science.
forget.
Yeah.
And
Go for it.
I am coming at you from behind the toilet paper mic again, just to show you how hard we're balling here. We're harder than J Rock and the Rock Pile. Hard as you know what. But I wanted to show you this because this bottle here represents my exit from society. We drank some champagne on Saturday night because I said I want out. We started making new songs too. I want to do a cover of the vinyl songs. I Touch Myself with substituted lyrics of I don't want to be part of the human race. When I think about them, I touch my face. What do you think? Make the whole song. I got people that'll play instruments.
That's myself.
What?
I got 5 mirrors, so I vax myself.
Did you say I vax myself?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's my version.
I touch my face. I don't want to be a human. Yeah.
There is now in my community. It's like there's a little bit of mask shaming going on.
Oh, mask shaming. Yeah.
But then there's a group of core locals that I'm with. We're part of the anti-mask league. So when we see each other in the store, we all gather with no masks and talk in close proximity, and everyone gets freaked out. We talk about like boating and hiking and what we're doing tomorrow, and everyone's like, they're doing stuff. Those are evil people. Oh, and they have no masks on. They're infected.
Do you think that it's possible that those people could be COVIDiots?
They're just very scared. Very scared.
Yes, they're very scared and they don't understand the science, but they want to impose certain restrictions on you without understand. It's very similar to carbon dioxide equals global warming. It's not out of that realm of insanity. I wonder what it'll be like next year at this time. Are we going to hear about how this was had a mortality rate less than 0.05%, or what's going to be the deal? Is it going to be the sniffles that stop the whole planet's economy? What kind of what do you think? What's your forecast on what it'll be next year at this time?
Okay, well, Lee and I had this discussion last night, and our current position would be that this novel coronavirus now seems to have, I just read a paper that they sequenced 40 versions of it, and they're using some very high AI math so this genetic sequence is mutating rapidly as coronaviruses should, and it's probably becoming much more and more mild. So eventually everyone will have it very quickly. Take a look at the testing numbers. There's like 6 million tested in the U.S. Over half of them are positive. So that's probably the average.
Well, I was saying about 6 weeks ago that there's probably well over 1 billion cases already. But you know, it's because
I agree there. I think it's more like 2 billion.
Well, yeah, but it's you know, it's one of these things that's ultra transmissible and not particularly deadly. I mean, yeah, some people have a terrible.
Right, because all the papers coming out now is that it's airborne, and these studies are showing that these micro particles of portions of the viral DNA can be airborne for 2 hours. And this paper came out last week. So a mask would actually allow you to suck it in faster directly into your neck if you're wearing that improperly.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. You know, it's funny because I have a lot of experience with PPE because I used to do hardwood flooring, and my boss used to wear the cheesiest dust masks, and I was like, Roy, we can't use these dust masks. When I get out of work, my respiratory tract is filled with polyurethane and linseed oil crystals and all kinds of stuff that you don't want to mess with, you know. really bad things. So I bought an elastomeric North brand mask with not only N95, the 2 canisters, but dust covers and additional N95. So you could pull off the canisters without even taking the mask off. And now you have 2
Yeah.
brand new. Like, I had that going forever. Like, the hazmat suit that I had here, I've had for ages. So, like, when I wear it and people are like, because they get mad at you if you wear too much PPE too, man. Are you aware of that? They get mad if you wear too much PPE, and they get mad if you don't wear enough. If you wear too much, I should have donated that to the local hospital or something. And if I don't wear enough, I must be fled from it at maximum sprint speed.
That was a good one.
So also, did you notice the way the cures for COVID-19 keep flipping back and forth? First you hear it's hydroxychloroquine, and then you hear it's, whatever. I don't even know.
Remdesivir.
Yeah.
Now, the reason it's now Remdesivir, I think Fauci and many people in the pandemic task force have their little fingers, their tentacles into that particular drug. And additionally, it costs like $1,000 a pill, where the hydroxychloroquine protocol is pennies. Always follow the money.
Let me show you something here. So you can see my screen, right? I want to show you something on my Instagram, going way, way back on Instagram here. I've got
plague math.
Plague math. Oh, look, check this one out. Did you see this meme?
Oh, I love Tom. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's a delight. All right. So there's one I did quite a while ago here, and I've got a bottle of tonic water. What the hell is it? Man, I put up a lot of posts. Yeah, and except I wrote #COVIDiots on the bottle. I can't remember which post it is, but it's on there somewhere. What about this? You see this one?
Prolific.
Look at that. I was balling hard. I had $9,000 worth of Purell and 20 rolls of toilet paper in the same vehicle, and I survived. No zombified humans showed up and Mad Maxed me.
Did you have to cover it with a blanket?
I bolted all those things to the floor. Now I'm just being facetious. So what else is going on, man? Did you hear about anisotropic space? Did you hear about that? That's some interesting stuff.
There's a lot of good science fiction going on these days.
Well, it's like when we look in the one direction, it's as if the light is shifted in a totally different manner than if we look in the other direction. It's like how did Ben Davidson put it? He said it's as if we're flowing in a direction with all the stuff, instead of everything moving away from us in some mysterious red shifty explosive pattern that we just happen to mysteriously be at the middle of. These measurements show that it's like as if the stream of light in between us and very old objects is completely affected differently looking north versus looking south, like in a 180 degree direction from the other way, if that makes sense. But once again, when you look at these things that are 13 billion light years away, you start to ask yourself, what is it that we're really measuring? And of course, the answer is photons, but I don't want to. Hey, did you see on Eugene's latest video, he actually pinned that comment, the comment where I said most of this stuff is largely nonsense because we don't see this or this or this or this in cosmology, and he said he agrees with everything but the Markland convection. So I want to try to do a call with Eugene soon where we talk about Markland convection, because I want him to show me any in cosmology. What say you?
Yeah, that would be an interesting conversation.
I think I might have changed his mind.
Heavy Russian accent.
I think I might have changed his mind on some things, but I'm pretty sure he knows that he can go in sauna with vodka and crush bug.
Yes, if you're not flexible and you're talking about brand new ideas, then you're a fraud.
Right, exactly. Exactly. If you're rehashing old stuff that we don't see in space over and over again, talking about things that would be so cool if they were actually there, that's one thing. But if you're talking about possible real explanations for the observations we see in astronomy and cosmology, that's a different thing. Are you able to see me or just my screen?
Oh,
You can just see my
that's science. I only see the screen.
Now you can see me, right? I don't want to be part of the human race. When I think about humans, I touch my face. I go and I shower and then I touch my face 4,000 times. Actually, today I didn't even shower. I just touched my face 4,000 times. What's that?
Is that the new way to self-immolate? Is that like self-immolation?
Yeah, I want people to think I'm a reckless bastard.
Touch your face?
I don't go out and do group rides and have an average speed of 24 miles an hour with like 15 people. I don't do that. No. What I do is I come home and I touch my face so people think I'm nuts. Because it's very spooky and scary.
Sometimes I lick the entryway in Walmart where the doors open.
Oh my gosh.
People freak out, man.
So like you don't have to wear a mask, but everybody wears a mask, don't they? Almost everybody wears a mask, right?
Yeah.
See, in Pennsylvania,
it's people in cars driving alone.
Well, like I said, I was driving around with a full hazmat suit on, and I had to walk back into the beer distributor, which is a drive-through, because they gave me the wrong stuff. So that was great. I had shoes over my booties on my hazmat suit, like the yellow hazmat suit, the Jesse Pinkman style. I had to go back in the I had to go back in the beer place, and the guy like stood like 5 feet away from me, because again, if you don't wear enough PPE or if you wear too much PPE, people are like, they're just
What's going on?
Fecally emitting bricks. That bricks are emitted fecally. They've read so many. I don't blame them. I mean, not everybody has the time to understand which articles are sharticles and which ones aren't, right? It's a mess.
Yeah.
You're like, I took high school bio, and I'm reading this article, and I'm like, what? What did they say? Scientists state, and then you're like, what are they? They just generally say that. Scientists say that Greenland is melting in a 1/4 mile by 1/2 mile area for one day because it got hot while there's 9 feet of snow coast to coast the entire summer, 3 years in a row, as there always is.
All right, let's talk about solar cycle 25. You've got this active sun, it's popping up a little active, but the activity of solar cycle 24 spots, they're equatorial. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts is that cycle 25 started late August, early September of 2019.
Oh, wow.
So here's Solar Ham's. Did you see my comments? I put this link in there. So Solar Ham's been keeping track of this. And it looks, now I'm not looking at this super in depth here because I can't vet all of this. But this looks like...
No, but I've seen all that. I use that.
It looks like a cycle 25 spot occurred in 2017. Now, I think that's a little crazy. I don't necessarily believe that's correct.
Well, I mean, if you study the butterfly diagram, the complete array that we have, and I've gone over this on shows, up to 3 years before the new sunspot, you can have spots showing up. So up to 3 years.
Yeah. So, but that's not big evidence in terms of when the cycle starts, because
to the beginning of the cycle.
What it ultimately
not at all.
What it ultimately boils down to is when you have more sunspots from the one cycle versus the other one, and when the fields are crossing / reversing. So it's really those two things. it's neither here nor there in terms of how the sun really works anyway. And you know, there are a lot of issues at play here because ultimately we never know how large of a scale cyclicity we're looking at. I think there's all kinds of different nested cyclicity within cyclicity within cyclicity. I'm sure you as a geologist agree, and a lot of the things you say support this type of hypothesis.
Yeah, well, a lot of people in general are under the impression that a sunspot cycle is a cycle. But if you really understand the dynamics of it, it's only a half of a cycle. It's a half of a solar cycle. A solar cycle is a full magnetic reversal of the solar polar fields. Now, that takes 2 solar cycles. And most people don't even understand that. So therein lies the problem of understanding all these cycles.
Yeah.
Right there.
Right, that's the graph you need, and this is the graph that does things like put Zarkova into retirement, because if you see where these fields are, how similar they are to cycle 24, it's pretty serious, and it's pretty seriously not looking like a grand solar anything. It's looking like another cycle.
No, that should happen in about, in my opinion, 11 years, the canceling out.
Yes.
The next solar polar.
Yes, but until then, we're probably going to have a cycle that I think is going to be a little stronger than the last cycle if I had to really bet on it. But then there's the possibility that it could be really weak. So, but you know, if you look back,
I'm going to say
when I first
1/3 weaker than 24.
When I first started studying this stuff in any depth, it was back around here, around 2003. And a lot of people were already predicting a GSM on that cycle. So, and you know, people in the 70s were predicting snowball Earth scenario, global colding is going to kill you, all that stuff. So yeah, it's. Oh wait, I'm not showing this. There we go.
Well, that whole snowball Earth and ice age scare came out of the ice core data. I mean, the ice core data was so good, and when they looked at that, it shows that we are on a sea level fall surface when every, if we're talking about the 26,000 year cycle, we're on the halfway point, 12,000. And at that point, it's when ice ages are initiated, according to the ice core data. So that's what they were worried about. The ice core data came out. We are now alive on that ice age flexure point. But the only problem is that there's a 1,400 year window in there. So when is it going to happen?
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily have to happen suddenly. The sun could continue behaving basically the way it does. The sun could basically continue behaving the way it does, and cosmic ray flux could increase without respect to the sun's behavior. So that's an important thing to understand too. In other words, cosmic ray flux could increase, and the sun could keep doing the exact same thing it's doing from its perspective, and the Earth would get much cloudier and much colder without anything besides cosmic ray flux increasing.
Yeah, now think about that. Clouds really make a difference, and even during an eclipse, you can see that during the day. The temperature can drop up to 20 degrees just from eclipsing. Same thing with clouds. Clouds can quickly, if the whole Earth clouded up, the temperature would continue to drop. It doesn't have a chance to recover, so it would get cold very quickly.
Yeah, there's a feedback mechanism associated with the albedo effect and clouds and all kinds of different things, and that's the really scary thing, because that's what wipes out civilizations.
Yeah.
I mean that's not very understood at all.
It's all clouded up. It's all clouded up, and then all those maybe meteorites or comets are coming in, and then we have no way to see it. That could be spooky.
I mean, like if cosmic ray flux suddenly just turned on, like for instance, if Deneb just went nuts. Let's get an image of that. If Deneb just decided to go beyond its normal active state and go into like a sociopathic state, it would be. So here's an image of it. if you read the papers about this thing, if you think this thing is weird, read the papers in depth about it that are on smashamash.com/forum. It's crazy. I mean, certain people will say that's not really an object, but what's actually going on here? Let me bring out Epic Pen for a second. People will say that's not
really an object, or what is it?
Yeah, I know. It's just plasma that has magical powers, and it just floats around and behaves as a massive magnet and radio source because reasons. That's what people will tell you. But in any case, in between, in between here, this is the radio source here, right? And this is the Wolf-Rayet star. That star is so big and hot that if it was in our solar system, it would be about the size of Mars's orbit. And the stellar wind coming out of this thing is about 10 times the average speed and density of the sun. So it would be, today it would be 3,000 kilometers per second instead of 300 kilometers per second. And it would be 30 protons per cubic centimeter would be a very low density. But in any case, this object here with the arrow pointed to it, that's the massive radio source. And that thing is orbiting this thing in a 4.8 hour periodicity.
That nebula, the snake-like nebula, it rotates around the star, and at that point in the nebula, or the whole nebula itself is generating.
It's not a nebula. It's just two objects that are kind of by themselves. So this, first of all, this red jet here, okay? That's the jet that's pointed away from you. This blue jet that looks like a swan, and by the way, Cygnus just happens to be the swan constellation that all the ancient monolithic sites are pointed at. That jet is pointed right at you. That could be completely associated with Earth's precessional cycle, and it seems kind of odd, almost as if the ancients knew that looked like that. That just happens to. That's where the cosmic rays are coming from, right there. And what's going on here is this thing is orbiting this Wolf-Rayet star at a period of 4.8 hours. 4.8 hours. And the reason that we know that, right, is because in between these two objects, there's a constant spinning disk of charged up plasma like a freaking record that's just sitting in there spinning. It's like a weird, plasma lagoon in between this massive radio source, which people call a black hole, a neutron star, a quasar, a blazar, all kinds of things, because the jet's pointed at us, and every time you look at it, you get a different thing. And this giant Wolf-Rayet star, imagine how fast it has to go around about, at least Mars's orbit, but probably more like Saturn's orbit, in 4.8 hours. What is going on in that system?
Well, what if it's just the energy source, the conical jet that's pointing at you? What if we're just looking at the end of the jet and it's rotating like this? Do you see my finger moving?
Absolutely.
And so you're looking at the end of the jet, and it's making a cone, and it's actually just spinning at that rate. So you're talking about the spin rate of the Rayet star.
Yes.
At about 4 hours, did you say?
Well, no, but that's not what it's doing.
Did you say it?
That's not what it's doing. It's not just
How do you know?
Well, because it gets eclipsed. It's an eclipsing variable. So it's what we call a high mass X-ray binary, and it emits until it gets behind this. Then it stops emitting. That's why we detected it.
I got it.
It wasn't a big deal because it was constantly emitting X-rays. And what's going on apparently is that this disk, and plasma's not magic, but it does weird stuff, especially when it's super energized, especially in a coherent pattern. This giant disk in between this massive radio source and this Wolf-Rayet star goes around this thing along with the massive radio source. It is one hell of a weird place. I mean, if Captain Picard could show up and have a look at that close, he wouldn't get very close, because the tidal forces have got to be so ridiculous. And of course, this jet indeed is a lot like a Birkeland current, because it's probably something like this. you've got a bunch of protons, and then you've got a bunch of electrons. And then you've got a bunch of protons, and then you got a bunch of electrons. If it emits the same way the sun's coronal holes emit, and likely it does, probably all stars do a similar thing, as these things collide with each other in space, this is going to act like a weird bridge. And you're going to get these rotational forces happening here on the way in, and that's going to make that jet act strangely, because it's going to come out protons and electrons, then protons and electrons. And just like this thing, you know, oh wait, let me switch back to OBS so you can see me. So this object here.
All right, we're 10 minutes over. Let's find a way to close this up. I gotta go.
So there's that object looking at the side of it, but as soon as it's pointed at you, it's like, well, what am I looking at? See what I mean? It doesn't have to be far away or big to do that, but in any case. Anything else you want to talk about? Plug? I was going to start looking at a couple of our videos, but we'll call it, because this was a brilliant conversation, I thought, and thanks for contributing. It's always fun times.
Well, let me look into the Cygnus phenomena a little bit more in my time off, and then we'll pick up the conversation there, and we'll have something to talk about.
Yeah, check out smashmash.com/forums cosmology forum about it. There's a big long section in there with a whole bunch of different articles from various different sources. Guys like Andrew Collins, he's the guy who's tying it together with things like Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah, I know him and all his work. I've been following him for over a decade.
Oh, really? Have you ever spoken with him or anything like that?
No, I've just seen everything he did early on, all
Right.
the Egypt stuff.
Okay. Because I only found out about him when I started looking up Cygnus X-3, and the only reason I started looking up Cygnus X-3 is because, geez, I don't even know why. I guess because of cosmic rays. I was trying to figure out which stars were emitting cosmic rays, because I figured it's probably coming out of poloidal fields out of stars, since the sun acts like that. So logically, there must be some stars, which is why I started looking at the Neil Gorell Swift Observatory stuff. It's one of those rabbit holes, but it's the most intrinsically bright object in the Milky Way galaxy, and it's as if every time I talk about it, I get the blankest looks, as if they've never heard of this object, like it's erasing their memory or something by blasting protons through their brain, because they live in the northern hemisphere.
Maybe that's it.
It could be controlling your life. You're living inside a distant star and you don't even know it. What if it's like pickup sticks, Diamond? What if it's like pickup sticks?
Yeah.
What if the cosmic ray environment is like pickup sticks, and where you get a bunch of junctions, that's where a star forms. You got these proton beams that are blasting all around different random directions, and occasionally they cross, like in Ghostbusters, and you get a complete protonic reversal, and then you get guys like Rex Bear exist.
Yeah. That'd be 1 in a billion.
Which is a great blessing on mankind. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you get guys like Mr. MBB333. but especially.
Why are they on strings?
What?
Why are these stars on stellar strings sometimes?
Yeah, I don't know.
You think? Yeah.
I'm not so sure that they are.
Well, there's plenty of photographic evidence that that's happening.
I think they could be like waterfalls. When you get a waterfall in a microgravity, it doesn't look like one on Earth. But in any case, it's definitely worthy of a lot of further examination. I think the condensed matter stuff is pretty exciting. Have you tried to email Robitaille yet? I mean, I don't want to keep you on the call all day.
Well, let's talk about liquid metallic sun. But I gotta go.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon. Don't be a stranger.
Later.
Hey, viewers. Oppenheimer Ranch Project.
Yeah.
Talk to you soon. Enjoy the video.